Here's something nobody tells you at your retirement party. The rule you built your entire future around might already be broken. For decades, one number ruled retirement planning in America: 4%. Pull 4% a year from your savings, and, in theory, your money lasts 30 years, no matter what the market does. Millions of people plan their entire retirement around that one number. But right now, quietly, some of the top financial researchers in the country are saying something different. And if you're within 10 years of retirement or already living off your savings, this could change everything about how much money you actually have. Let's talk about Mark and Linda Sutter. They live outside Columbus, Ohio. Mark spent 31 years working for a regional trucking company. Linda taught third grade for almost as long. Between his 401k and her pension buyout, they walked into retirement with $750,000 saved. Not rich, not struggling, just normal. The kind of number a lot of hardworking Americans hit after a lifetime of steady paychecks and careful saving. Mark did the math the way his financial guy told him to. 4% of $750,000. That's $30,000 a year on top of Social Security. It felt safe. It felt like enough. Here's the problem. That 4% number wasn't invented for the world we live in now. It came from a study back in 1994, built on decades of stock and bond returns from a very different America. Interest rates were higher, bond returns were stronger, and the study assumed a fairly simple retirement: 30 years, steady withdrawals, no real curveballs. Mark and Linda retired in 2023, and 2023 did not look like 1994. Inflation had just torn through grocery bills and gas prices. Bond yields had been near zero for years before suddenly spiking. The market had already had one brutal down year, and Linda, 61 at the time, was staring down a retirement that could realistically last another 35 years, not 30. Nobody warned them that the rule itself had an expiration date. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Researchers started stress testing the 4% rule against today's numbers. Not decades-old numbers, today's. And the result wasn't good. Morningstar, one of the most respected research firms in personal finance, ran the numbers using current bond yields, current stock valuations, and longer life expectancies. Their conclusion: a genuinely safe starting withdrawal rate looks closer to 3.7%. Some years, their models pushed it even lower. That gap sounds small, 4% versus 3.7%. But run that difference across Mark and Linda's $750,000, and it's over $2,000 less income. Every single year, for the rest of their lives. $2,000 doesn't sound like a headline number, until it's the difference between fixing the roof yourself or paying someone else to do it. Until it's the difference between a grandkid's birthday gift and just a card. And here's the part that really shook Mark. The 4% rule assumes you spend the same amount every year, adjusted only for inflation, no matter what the market does. It doesn't care if the market crashes the year after you retire. That's called sequence of returns risk, and it's brutal. If a big market drop hits early in retirement, while you're still pulling out that same fixed amount, you're selling more shares at lower prices just to generate the same income. Your portfolio never fully recovers, even if the market eventually bounces back. Mark retired in 2023, right into a shaky, unpredictable market. Timing, it turns out, matters almost as much as saving. So what actually works now? This is where Linda made a decision that changed their entire outlook. And, honestly, it wasn't complicated. Instead of locking in one fixed withdrawal number and never touching it, their advisor introduced them to something called a guardrails approach. Some researchers just call it flexible spending. Here's the idea, in plain terms. You start with a reasonable withdrawal rate, something closer to 3.5 to 3.7% instead of 4. But instead of treating that number as permanent, you check in on it once a year. Good year in the market? You can spend a little more, maybe take that trip to see the grandkids in Arizona. Rough year? You pull back slightly, skip the new car this year, delay the kitchen remodel by 12 months. It's not about panic, it's about small, calm adjustments, instead of one rigid number that assumes the next 30 years will be smooth and predictable. Linda described it to a friend like this. It felt like the difference between driving with cruise control, locked on through a snowstorm, versus actually keeping your hands on the wheel. For Mark and Linda specifically, that meant starting around $26,000 a year instead of $30,000. Less exciting on paper, but, paired with the flexibility to adjust, their projected odds of running out of money before age 95 dropped dramatically, according to the Monte Carlo simulation their advisor ran. They also did one more thing a lot of people overlook. They kept 2 years of living expenses in cash, sitting outside the stock market entirely. That way, if the market drops hard, they're not forced to sell shrinking investments just to pay the electric bill. They simply live off cash for a while and let the portfolio recover. Here's the real lesson underneath all of this. The 4% rule wasn't wrong when it was created. It was built for a different set of decades, different interest rates, different life expectancies. Treating it like a permanent law of nature instead of a rough starting point is what gets people in trouble. Retirement isn't a math problem you solve once at 65 and then ignore for 30 years. It's something you check in on, adjust, pay attention to. Mark put it simply after they made the switch. He said it wasn't about having less. It was about finally understanding what they actually had. If you're approaching retirement, or you're already there, don't just trust the number your advisor gave you 5 years ago without asking if it still holds up today. Ask about flexible withdrawal strategies. Ask about sequence of returns risk. Ask what happens if the first 3 years go badly, not just the average year. Because the goal was never to follow a rule. The goal was always to make sure the money lasts as long as you do. If you want to actually understand how money works, not just follow rules you never questioned, that's exactly what we do here on Money IQ Pro. Simple, honest videos about retirement, saving, and building real financial freedom.